Well, a major shocking death and some threatening new characters up the stakes in what is truly a game-changing premiere. Hey guys, remember the season premiere of Fear the Walking Dead, Season 3, Episode 1, Eye of the Beholder, and Season 3, Episode 2, The New Frontier, and holy shit, this premiere. I mean, going into this, I was quite skeptical, and I'll tell you guys why. When it comes to Fear the Walking Dead, I will admit, I was a little too high on the show. It's not nearly as good as I thought it was, and I realized last year, a lot of these characters they don't really know how to write for. But the way the finale ended, I said it before, I think the finale is personally the best episode of the show. It really did heighten the tension. It really seemed like we're going to a very thrilling season 3. And I was really hoping that this season wouldn't let me down and wouldn't be like another Walking Dead where you wait for something to happen and just nothing happens. And I have to say, it couldn't have been more different than The Walking Dead because this premiere was amazing. I loved pretty much not everything about this premiere, but there were still had its flaws here and there, but I still really did overall I was very impressed by this premiere. There's so much to talk about. There's so much that has changed and this show is going in a completely different direction I expected to go, and I'm very happy with where the show is really going because it really is taking a lot more risks than I really would have expected it to. And I think from here on out, the show itself is going to turn into something a lot better and closer to what we hoped it would be. So let's just get into this episode. So we start off, and immediately there's a ton of tension. We see Madison, Travis, and Alycia. They're escorted by this military group down the path surrounded by dead bodies, and a gate then opens, and they're brought into an area labeled as a restricted military base. And sure, we've seen this before, but this is a much stricter military base that is lacking a lot of compassion and a lot of care for these characters. They don't really give a shit about them. Travis is separated from the group immediately. He's yelling back to Madison that he will find her, and Alycia and Madison drive one way while Travis goes another. And they're each in cars with soldiers, and a massive military base is then revealed, and Travis is then escorted through a bunker. There are no mattresses in the bed frames. He hears these people screaming before getting shot, and the soldiers are joking about killing them with one shot, and they wrote the time of their deaths on their forehead, so to them, these people are extremely expendable. Like, they'll just kill them if they have to. They don't really care. The soldiers quickly take Travis's physical measurements, and they write 42 on his hands, so we get the sense that he's kind of like just a number to them, and they sit him down and pull an old man from the same room. He's very scared, and Travis looks around the man near him, and some are coughing and sick. Others are sitting very quiet, and behind a few people we see Luciana and Nick. They're sitting together against a wall. Nick opens his eyes to see Travis, and it's this great moment where you see Travis and Nick finally reuniting, and I really did love seeing that. That's a big part of this episode. Luciana and Nick, finally the family does come back together, which I know a lot of people didn't like that. They didn't like that they did separate them, and I think it does work better when this family is together. This premiere confirms that it really is better when everyone's together, and I was very happy to see that here. So Travis tells Nick that his mother and Alycia were taken elsewhere. Nick asks about Chris, which Travis responds negatively, indicating that Chris died, which of course Nick has no idea what Travis and Chris have been up to, and I like that we don't get a huge mention of him because, one, I never was really a huge fan of the character. I feel like they just didn't really know what to do with him. It seems so random where they were going with him, so I'm glad that he was killed off, but also at the same time, I'm glad the show is moving away from it. So Luciana wakes up to ask if he saw anyone at the border before resting her head on Nick's shoulder again, and Nick explains that he thought this place was a refugee camp, but he was very wrong. This is definitely not that, and Travis came looking for Nick, and now he's going to get them all out of here. He's going to make sure that he frees them, and we see that that might not work out as easy as he thinks. So we see elsewhere in the facility, Alycia and Madison are searching for weapons or for an escape route, and Alycia insists they shouldn't have been looking for Nick, that's their main problem, is that Nick should not have been their main priority here. And a soldier enters with coffee and food and asks Madison to sit, and his name is Troy. And Troy, this character, is so vindictive. He's so intimidating. He's so compelling as well, and I already really am interested with where this character is going to go. So they're very reluctant to talk to him, but he apologized for the way that they were treated, and he has a few questions. Madison says that they came alone looking for her son and Nick, and he asks why they were in Mexico in the first place, and she said a friend had a place there, and Madison then pleads with Troy to let them go, saying that his mother would search for him like she is for Nick, but he says that his mother's actually dead, and he doesn't get lost. he says that they will get squared away here and sent out on their own before exiting. So it seems that he's trying to help them. Like, he's going to be the one to free them and make sure that they're out of there. But we'll get into that in a second. In the shower room, men are being shot. Soldiers are discussing killing the men. This one actually took 2 shots, and they taped his mouth and are waiting for him to reanimate. And suddenly the dead man's foot actually twitches, and his eyes change. His resurrection comes at 17 hours, according to Troy, we find out. And in the holding area, Troy then questions Travis about his ethnicity and then if he had communication with another country before it all went down. And Nick then questions Madison and Alycia's location, and Travis insists he's not a savage. Like, that's just not who he is, and Travis wants help for Luciana, but Troy says that everyone here dies. So everyone's just going to die anyway, and he doesn't have to worry about it, and it seems that that's just kind of the way the camp is. So Alycia and Madison then continue to look for a way out. Alycia has a knife in her boot, which she offers to her mother, and Madison insists that she will get everyone out. Even if it means killing, she will do it herself. And, I don't know about that. Madison in general has always been kind of like 50-50 when it comes to it. Sometimes she kills, sometimes she doesn't. Alycia will happily kill if she has to, and Alicia's always been one of my favorite characters here, and she continues to be in this premiere. She definitely was one of my favorite parts of this, and in the holding area, a man introduced himself to Troy. His name is actually Steven, and he says that he can get them out, which Troy said he could as well, but this guy kind of seems a little more sincere. Soldiers suddenly come in. They take Travis and Nick to a shower area, and they are in the midst of pushing one man against a wall as he struggles before shooting him, and Nick and Luciana are scared, but Travis is unaffected. And I think it's because of what Travis has seen from here. He's not really he's kind of unscathed, because I think he's still holding a lot of regret for that of Chris, and he's kind of going through this really rough time. But meanwhile, Madison and Alycia, they're sitting in their office area, and later the man is reanimated as Nick's group looks on. Steven insists he's not going to go down like that, and he reveals how he came to be here, and he convinces Travis to help them get out of the room. The soldiers come in, and they say they have to be out in 24 hours. They want to start with 2 victims today, and Travis is still unaffected by the people around him dying. He doesn't seem to have much of a reaction, and in the office area, Alycia and Madison are sleeping on the couch, and they chair while Troy is writing notes beside them, and Troy says they actually passed the proceeding, but Travis has different criteria, that he's not a bad person, Troy insists, and Madison asks if he is dead, and Troy asks if it would hurt her if he was. She says that she loves his life more than her own. You know, she loves having him there. She wants to make sure that Nick is alive, and you know, that's something that she really does care about. We know how much she really does care about Nick. I mean, we had that whole episode where she, you know, really wanted to help him and get him off the whole drug thing, but a lot of people say that that is the lowest point in the show, but I feel like her genuine love for Nick is very well represented here. I think they did a really good job showing that. So in the shower area, the soldiers debate which body will reanimate first. They start explaining the dead to Travis and how their senses work, and the body outside the facility are to keep the dead away, and Travis then tries to reason with the men and questions why the other men of the facility don't know what's going on here. Like, why are they so out of the loop? And one soldier insists that it is murder for science, and they question whether or not Travis has killed anyone. He says that no one who didn't deserve it, and that's very true. I mean, we know Travis has killed his fair share of people, and the soldiers get frustrated. They elect to shoot Nick, but Travis volunteers aggressively. The soldiers bring to the other side of the room, where Travis attacks one, Nick attacks the other, and the now reanimated man on the ground bites one soldier while one gathers himself to see everyone has fled the room. And again, you can tell Travis is in a situation where he doesn't want to have to kill, but at this point he's killed so many people that he just doesn't have much of an effect on him anymore, and I really did like seeing that transition that Travis was going through here. So Troy then offers Madison to take her home with him, and all Madison wants to know is whether or not Travis is alive, because she has no idea if he's actually there. And Troy promises to release him if she comes with him, and they hear a gunshot, and Troy then runs out of the room. Travis directs Nick to get Luciana to safety. Travis then stays back to fight some soldiers, and Nick and Luciana run down this sewage system, and Steve then gets shot above it. The soldier slashes his throat before tossing him and after him and saying happy hunting, which I was shocked, but I couldn't believe they killed this character. But this immediately shows that this character of Troy, he's not a good guy. There's definitely someone he shouldn't be trusting, and Travis is being escorted through the bunker again, where Troy asks what happened. He's angry that Travis interrupted his tender moment with Madison and tells him that he will take Madison and Alycia home. Troy directs the soldiers to take Travis out back, and Luciana tells Nick that she's slowing him down, and he insists that he will not leave her behind. That, you know, she just feels like she's slowing him down and that he should get out of there while he can. And again, I really do love that relationship. I said it before. I think their relationship is one of the high points of last season. I still do agree with that. I really did like their relationship so far, at least. So Troy enters the office again, where Madison was waiting to try and stab him. He catches her, and a fight ensues. Madison reaches for a spoon. She jabs it into his eye before sending Alycia to find a vehicle. A lot of parallels to the governor there. The way that he she was trying to stab me because she knew obviously something more is going on with Travis. She does not trust this guy for a second, and she sends Alycia to then find a vehicle. Outside, a helicopter flies over Alycia. It's actually raining now, and we then see Nick and Luciana continue through the sewage system. They come to an opening, and after pushing the wall off at the end, Nick sees this massive herd of walkers approaching. And we don't see a ton of walkers in this episode, but I thought what we got here was still really great. The soldiers guide Travis to a herd of walkers in a pit. Madison now surrounded by soldiers with Troy as a hostage, and Travis then fights the walkers off with cinder blocks, construction tools, and his bare hands. He puts up an impressive fight, smashing heads with his fists, and he drives others into a rock wall. So he's just kind of going left and right here. The soldiers sarcastically look on. He tosses his block at them. They open the gate, which was holding the dead back, and Madison then talks with Troy, who is now saying that Travis is going to die, and there's really nothing she can do about it. He's going to die, and that's just kind of how it's going to go, and Troy's brother starts to reason with her. Now, Troy's brother is the complete opposite of Troy. I mean, this is a much more understandable guy. This is a guy who's a lot more rational. He's not at all like his savage brother, and he insists that he will help find her family. Madison lets him go. He tries to attack her, and Jack pulls him off and asks where her family is, learning Travis is actually in the pits. And in the sewage system, Nick is attacked by now reanimated Steven. Alycia hears it from above, tries to help. She drops her knife to them, and Luciana takes the zombie out. Alycia's grabbed by soldiers as Nick looks on, and we see Madison. She arrives at the pit where Travis has killed all the walkers, and he's helped out, quickly attacks Troy. Travis tells her that Nick is here just as Alycia is brought to her, and moments later, soldiers then bring Nick back, and the three Clarks then share a hug. And it's a genuinely really great moment. The fact that they were all reunited there, I really do love the way that was done. It's been so long since she's actually seen Nick, and for her to finally kind of have him back, I just thought was a really satisfying moment. So Jack then tells Madison and Travis about his father's ranch and insists that they had that way. And he says that Troy is the only man who has bad intentions, and Madison demands that they get their guns back. So it seems that this is going to be a permanent stay for them. Like, they will get to his father's ranch and they'll be safe there. And Madison thanks Travis, apologizes to him for the loss of Chris, and he says that, she says that she's here, that his family's here, and Travis tells her that they're going to be back in it soon. He's okay now with her, though he's acting quite disconnected. Like, he just doesn't seem like the Travis that we know. He doesn't seem like he's as into this. And in the bunker, Jack approaches a now patched up Troy, and Jack is not happy that Troy is killing people. He thinks that Troy's going way too far. He lashes out at him, and Troy is very unaffected by it. Like, he doesn't seem to really care, and Troy insists he will only tell their dad what he has learned. So inside, the soldier who menaced Travis in the shower area, he packs his things, he heads out, he stops to look at the bloody walls with a grin before hearing some rumblings from within a wall, and he investigates it curiously. A horde of rats emerge from a vent in the wall. The soldier looks more closely and is pulled through the wall with an incredibly strong walker. Again, we don't really know what this is all about, but he's just kind of pulled through the wall there, and I thought, again, there was a really intense scene there. So Jack then pleads with Madison to come with her. They hear a gunshot before noticing a herd headed their way. Madison gets the car key. She rounds up her family, and they take out a few walkers with various weapons. They help each other get to the truck. Jack takes off in the helicopter. Travis helps Alycia escort a faint Luciana to the helicopter, and Travis begins shooting walkers, and Alycia and Luciana are in the helicopter, which now has its door closed. Madison and Nick are saved by Troy, who calls them to the truck. Travis then boards the helicopter and watches as Madison becomes further away, and you can tell, obviously, they're going to do what they can to get to that farm, because they're just not safe here, and the truck drives away, and Troy tells Madison that they're all going to the same place now, and the fact that Troy is going there, you don't really know how that's going to play out, but we get to the end of this episode as Travis looks on and sees Madison's truck escape. So that's the end of the first part of the episode, but now we get into the second part, which obviously there is a lot to talk about there. So we see literally right where we left off, which I have to say, for this particular premiere, I wasn't sure. I'm like, do they really need 2 episodes? Like, it just kind of felt like it was a little bit too much. For this premiere, because of how much went down, they needed those 2 hours, really. I don't feel like it would have made sense for them to go back to back like that, definitely. I just don't really feel like they should have done that. So the helicopter carrying Travis, Alycia, and Luciana is about 20 minutes away from the farm, and we see Jake wants to bring the helicopter a little bit higher. He's looking concerned for Luciana, and suddenly a bullet pierces the glass and then several more, and somehow it shoots Travis in the neck. He's shot in the neck. He calmly applies pressure tube before uttering, "Help me." He opens the door to the helicopter. He unbuckles his seatbelt, and Alycia tries to tell him to stay in the seat, but she sees the gash that has him bleeding out, and he leans back, falls out of the helicopter, and Travis is dead. Yeah, they actually killed off Travis in this episode, which I was shocked about. I can't believe they actually went in that direction. Look, they said that a major death was coming, I did not think it was going to be this early. I was expecting like the finale, and The Walking Dead does this all the time, where they tease you that a major death is coming and then nothing happens. The thing that was so great about this death that I think really is honestly better than the way The Walking Dead handled it is because there wasn't a cliffhanger of sorts. We had no idea that this was coming. Sure, we had that little thing from Jack that, oh, Travis isn't going to make it and that, you got to be careful of him and that he's, not going to be able to come back from this. But I didn't actually think he meant it. I thought, okay, Travis will bounce back somehow. He has to. There's no way he's actually going to die here. But no, Travis is actually dead. And honestly, I think it was the right call. Travis is a character that I feel like they never really knew what to do with. It seemed like they were trying to make him like the anti-Rick Grimes and someone who was against killing, but now he is killing, and they never really knew what to do with him, unfortunately. And then Cliff Curtis is such a good actor, but even he just didn't really fit in the role. I feel like it's a character that he just didn't really know what to do, and by getting rid of him, it actually makes for a much better show. And I gotta say, from here, they're kind of revamping the show after this. I mean, you very well do feel that they are revamping the show, and the show we get in this episode is a lot better than what we have gotten thus far. Not saying the premiere wasn't great, because it was, but this particular half is very promising for where the show is going. So, back in the hotel, in Mexico, people have flocked to its gates. They're trying to barge in, but they're being kept out. And Strand sees this all. Now, Strand's the only person who hasn't been who hasn't gone to jail, but unfortunately, he delegates a plan in Spanish, telling everyone that he's a doctor. And the group calms and listens to him. He shows them that he's injured as well, and he gains their trust. He insists that they let people in and accommodate them, as well as an upgrade to his own room. So on the ground elsewhere, we see Jake and Alycia are walking around the rain, and she's shocked by the loss of Travis. She can't believe it. I mean, this has never happened to her before, and she can't believe he actually did that. And Jake insists that they're just going to keep moving. And that's what I love, is that they don't focus this entire episode on the loss of Travis, because they have to move on at some point. I mean, Travis is a character that, yes, meant a lot to them, but they're in a situation where they just got to keep moving because they got to make sure they get to a safe area. And elsewhere, we see Madison. She rides down a road in a military Humvee in their Envoy, and she turns off their metal music. They arrive and find out that Jake hasn't yet, and Madison and Nick are taken out of the truck, and they formulate a plan to protect themselves from these people because they don't really trust these people at all. I mean, they see how dangerous they really are, so they don't really trust them. And Madison then tells him to hug her and directs his hand to the gun in her waistband, and she's going to stop anyone who gets in their way. She's going to make sure that that doesn't happen. And again, I really do love the way this family is back together. It really is feeling like a family show. Isn't that what this show is supposed to be? I think season 2, they got a little bit unfocused and tried to make it like these own individual character stories, when in reality this is supposed to be a family drama, and it very much does seem like it's going back to those roots this season. I'm very happy they are going in that direction here, because it really does separate itself from The Walking Dead, which is what the show was supposed to be from the beginning. So at the hotel, Strand removes a bullet from a young man's leg, and later he sits on his own looking out the window, and Elena then rushes him to a woman. Remember Elena, that woman who was in the hotel? Well, she's having a baby, and everyone looks to him to deliver and threaten violence if he does not. And Hector then vouches for Strand, though, and this was the one part of the episode that I just wasn't as into. Anytime we come back to the hotel, it just kind of feel like it was here just so we could have Strand make an appearance, but I'm sure he is eventually going to make his way back to the family, and we're going to find out, what's going to happen there. Just right now, it wasn't bad. I just felt like because of everything else, this was not nearly as interesting. So Madison and Nick debate whether or not they should stay here, and Nick wants to leave in a hurry. They don't really know if this is a safe place, and I love that they are kind of going back and forth here, because for a while, they haven't really found a safe shelter. Remember, they thought that one woman's place was good, but then she kind of turned out to be crazy, and they left there. Then they almost were at that other family's home, so they've kind of been on like this scavenger type mission where they've all kind of been going in their own directions, and now that they are all back together, they're not really sure if they should stay here. So Nick walks away, and a man approaches Madison at the fence with coffee. He tells her the helicopter sets down if there is weather, and the man that we see here is actually who played Unser on Sons of Anarchy, so it was really cool to see him again. I really did enjoy this character, but he asks her if she thinks that Travis would have hijacked the helicopter, and she insists that he wouldn't before dumping out the coffee. So she's insulted that he would ask her, but it says it is only because his son and his goddaughter were actually on it. And basically, the man turns his attention to Nick and welcomes them to broke jaw branch, and Nick is reluctant to enter and basically insisting that it's not safe. And later, this man actually gives Madison and Nick a tour of the ranch, explaining the community was prepped for the apocalypse. And he says that Troy is protecting his men, having heard his side of it, and saying he's building a new nation, which is actually very imperfect. But he insists it's the safest place to live and that they should be grateful. And they get a cabin, and Nick then yells out that his son's a murderer. I mean, he knows straight up that his son is not to be trusted, and that line in general, I think I'm just kind of like, what the hell are you doing, Nick? Like, why are you saying this? You're really gonna get them in trouble. But Madison wants to make do in the community. She wants to make sure that they are on good terms with this community because she doesn't want to fuck it up. And Nick is feeling the guilt for Luciana's injury and her people who died because, I mean, it is very much his fault, but it's also Luciana's fault. I mean, they were the ones who were led to believe that, you know, the walkers were a good thing. They were led to believe that, and it's not really either their faults. It's more that other character, I can't remember his name, but remember he died. He made them think that this was all like, you know, he started that cult and everything, so it really is his fault that all this went down. But obviously that aftermath is still with him, and Madison then says that she wants to save everybody, but she needs Nick's help. And I love the way these two are reuniting. You know, we haven't seen this alliance in a while, and I really did like seeing that. So he storms out, they're ready to see how many of these people are sharpening their knives. He really does not trust any of these people, and I like that they are on separate terms here. Like, he really doesn't think that they can trust any of them. So Alycia and Jake then sit by a fire with another woman, and she takes watch, and she's worried about her people being around his brother, and he assures her that they can control him because her brother is very dangerous. His brother is very dangerous, but he knows that they can control him. Troy's always been dangerous. You know, he's always kind of had this dark path, and she can relate to dangerous brothers, you know, because Nick himself is dangerous. You know, he had himself involved in drugs and things like that, and Jake's friend whistles to alert them of nearby danger, prompting him to stomp out the fire, and he quietly follows the noise with a gun drawn, hearing some bushes moving around before falling down a small cliff, and using a flashlight, he finds his gun. He hears the sound of a walker eating someone, and nearby he sees a couple of walkers chowing and ends up fighting them, and he's losing until Alycia actually saves his life by shooting them down. Now that was awesome. I love seeing her take action and shooting them down, and I love the fact she took charge there. All this is before Jake realizes his friend has actually been eaten, and he asks for the gun to put her down, which is really sad to see. I mean, you can tell this is a friend that he really did care about, and even someone that he could have possibly been in a relation with and really did care about him, and unfortunately, he had to put her down. It kind of is just the nature of the beast, and you can tell that this really did affect him. And I think scenes like that, smaller things like that, really did help, you know, develop these characters in a way that I really didn't think they were going to be. I expect these characters to be very disposable, and they're a lot more interesting than I thought, and that was one of the reasons why I was very happy this was a 2-hour premiere. So at the hotel, Strand has handed a bottle of liquor. He's covered in blood, and the people with him are ready to help him continue the lie about being a doctor in an effort to protect themselves, but they kick him out, they send him on foot, and Hector insists that he treat one more person before leaving by convincing a woman to eat. And he enters a room with a sandwich, and it smells horrible, and he calls out for her, but he hears no response, and walking further into the room, he finds a mannequin, but he's caught from behind by the woman, you know, the one who stabbed in season 2, and I'm glad we finally saw her again, because she kind of just went away. Like, we had that one scene with her, and then she went away, and I'm glad she came back here. She apologizes for stabbing him. He opens the door to let some air into the room. He preaches stories of hope to her, and she comes around to it, and he's gonna leave this place and has somewhere in mind, somewhere that's not with the Clarks, obviously, because as we've seen, he just doesn't belong there. He doesn't belong with them. He kind of is going to go off on his own, and she offers him a box, which was supposed to be a wedding gift. Remember, this is the woman who was supposed to get married, and it was supposed to be a wedding gift, but he thanks her before. She does the same for him, walks off the balcony to her death, and she just commits suicide, and Strand's very surprised, but at the same time, I mean, there's nothing she can really do, you know. She was very suicidal. You could tell that, obviously, you know, he couldn't really stop her, so he's surprised, but at the same time, he's ready to just leave the hotel and abandon it. You know, he's ready to kind of seek new shelter, so in the wild, Jake and Alycia continue their survival efforts. He's holding on to the loss of his friend. Again, this is a friend he really cared about, and that really did mean a lot to him. So she tells him Luciana is unconscious. He says that they'll carry her. They get ready to go as he realizes that this world is terrible. I mean, this is a terrible place that they're in. At the ranch, a guard then spots Alycia and Jake carrying Luciana. They rush into the gate where Alycia hugs Madison. She asks where Travis is, and Alycia has to tell her the sad truth that he didn't make it. And both of them do break down, but it's a really nice scene. It's not like this overdrawn, you know, soap opera, which it easily could have been. It's just this nice scene of them embracing, realizing that he died, and it's a really well done scene. They have to move past it, unfortunately. So Nick finds Luciana, tries to wake her up, and Troy's then quick to say that Luciana is not going to make it, and he wants to put her down. He orders Nick to move aside, so he does, but he offers to do it himself, and Nick then gets the gun. He stares down at Luciana before pointing it at Troy because he just doesn't trust him. I mean, anything that Troy says, there's no way he's going to trust him, and everyone then draws their guns on him. Nick orders Luciana be allowed inside because he knows Luciana can make it, but Troy is just going to make it so she doesn't. So Troy's father then steps between the two men. He offers to let Luciana in if she has a pulse, and Nick then hands over the gun, and Luciana is escorted to the infirmary, and I like that they were able to get her medical attention. I really did not want Luciana to die, and especially after what we saw with Travis, I really was not looking forward to another major death, and I'm glad they didn't do that. Luciana is, in fact, the main character of the season, so I'm glad that, she did live here. So Madison takes some time to be by herself, and we get one of the best scenes of the episode between her and Jeremiah Otto. He spots her throwing up by a tree, and he consoles her, and he wants to make sure that she isn't a threat to the people around her or herself, because immediately the Clarks are a bit of a threat. I mean, this is not a huge family, it's a relatively small family, which I'm glad about. They're much smaller than they were. Ophelia's gone off to do her own thing, Strand's gone off to do his own thing, Travis is dead. It's now just Madison, Nick, Alycia, and Luciana. That's it. There's no one else really, and she signs and he tells her that he's sorry for her loss, and he really came to ask her to sign for the gun that she took earlier, and it seems like they're going to have this really nice bond. I'm looking forward to seeing Madison and Jeremiah, not as a relationship sort of thing, but as more of more like friends. I'm really looking forward to seeing these two bond. I think definitely this is exactly the kind of person that Madison needs, and I'm really looking forward to seeing more of their relationship, how it progresses throughout the season. So Nathan comforts Alycia, and back at the ranch, she breaks down to tears in her brother's arm, obviously because, this was Travis, she really did care about him. And at the hotel, Strand then swiftly sneaks out in a Maserati. He says his style and his color, he says, before driving away in it, and Madison has a cigarette. Alycia approaches with Nick. They close the door and enter the room. She insists that she's okay, and Madison comes to the conclusion that they're going to stay here. They're going to make it their home. Even if they had to take it over, they're going to make sure that this is where they stay, because she's tired of just moving around. She says it is their fate. Travis died getting there, and she wants to know everything about how Travis died, which, we still don't really know all the steps about it, and that is the way this premiere ends. Really great stuff overall, but let's just get into this episode and where the show is going to go from here. So, holy shit, I really had no idea how game-changing of a premiere this was really going to be. I heard from many sources that this season is extremely different, and it absolutely is. This feels like a completely different show, but it doesn't feel like it's unearned. Like, it doesn't just feel like, oh, they're trying to revamp the show because everyone hated it. It doesn't feel like that. It feels like the show is naturally evolving into something a lot better. It has a much smaller cast now. There's not as many people to focus on. I did hear that Daniel's coming back and that he is alive and well, and I did hear that Ophelia's going to come back in the story at some point, but at least right now they don't have a huge cast to focus on, and they can really get more into this family and more what they're going through. And one thing is for sure, I really do like that they're finally done, traveling. I'm glad they're off that boat. I'm glad they're now in this community, and they're actually happy where they are, and it seems like they're going to stay here. So I'm hoping they do make the best of it. I think, Madison, it's a good thing that she wants to stay there, because they should try to make the best of it. This is a community that they absolutely, I think, belong in, and this is somewhere where they can make it their own. The Ottos in general, I wouldn't really trust. Sure, Jake is a lawyer, and he clearly does seem like a really, genuine guy, and that he actually does want to help them, and I think Jeremiah does too. Troy really is the problem here. Troy's a character that I'm very interested in getting into, and I did hear he's going to be, like, the big threat of the season. And Daniel Sharman, he's not the greatest actor in the world, but he did a good job in this episode. You could see his accent slip through a couple times, but he definitely was very menacing. He was very vindictive, and you definitely get the sense that this is a guy who's just ready to go off at any point. And a lot of people are, comparing him to the governor, and I already do see that comparison, between the eye patch and the way that he kind of wants to take over everything. Right now, he's not a huge threat. He definitely is something that they need to worry about, but as time goes on, I think he's going to get more and more threatening as the show goes on. I can't wait to see the way the show really does utilize him, and I have to say, I care about the Otto family a lot more than I expected to. You got these two brothers who really don't seem to get along at all, but it's mainly because I think of Troy's jealousy for Jake. He doesn't understand why Jake is the way he is. Why does Jake have this compassion? Why does Jake feel this way? Why is he just able to feel happy in this world? Why does Troy have to be the dark horse? Why are they so concerned about him? I think it's interesting the way that's really going. And then Jeremiah, he's kind of the one that's just kind of trying to fix it all. He's trying to get it all together. He's kind of in the middle of it all, and he's very much in the same position as Madison, and I'm really looking forward to their overall relationship. I do hope we see more of that throughout the show. Jake and Alycia, I don't know if they're setting those two up to possibly be a couple, but I feel like that could be the direction they're going. Alycia has yet to have, like, another boyfriend after Matt, so I wouldn't be surprised if they do end up doing that, because Alicia's someone who, one, is extremely attractive. I definitely will say that. I always love, she's definitely nice to look at. I always do say that. I think she's one of the most attractive women on both The Walking Dead and Fear the Walking Dead, without a doubt. But aside from that, she's also a very well-written character, and I'm very interested in seeing where she's going to go. Also, how are they going to move on from Travis's death? We don't know who killed Travis. I'll say that right now. We don't know who killed Travis, and I think we're eventually going to find out. Do I think it's Troy? No. I think that's too easy. I think it's too easy. I think there's definitely more to it, and I don't think it's going to be Troy. Maybe it is, and if it is, maybe the show will give a good reason why, but I don't think that it's Troy. I just think that's too easy of an answer, and I do think we're going to get that answer as to who did in fact kill Travis. I think definitely there's going to be some sort of resolution there. There are going to be some things the show is moving on from, like we're not going to focus as much on Travis because, he's not around anymore, he's dead. I think the show's going to move on from it, but I do think we're going to find out who the killer is before this half of the season is up, at least this half of the season. I think we're definitely going to find out, and we're going to talk about more because, he was a big part of the show, and again, as much as his character, I think, wasn't really all that great, I think his character in general could have been really great, but they just didn't really know how to go about it, and they never really wrote his character that great. And out of all the characters, he was the one that was the most problematic. He was always the one. Him and Chris were the two characters that were always on and off, where it seemed like they were just doing kind of whatever they wanted with him, and they never really had that consistent arc. So I do hope that now that Travis is gone, this is going to be a much more consistent show. Let's talk about Nick and Luciana. Obviously, Nick is getting over the aftermath of what happened, in Mexico. Obviously, he really does care for Luciana. He feels like he's to blame for a lot of it, and that's obviously not the case. They very much did fall for that guy's tricks. I can't remember his name right now, but they fell for his tricks. Angelo, I think his name was. They fell for his tricks, and now they have to kind of deal with the aftermath of that. And Luciana's going to live, so I'm looking forward to seeing the way that's going to go. I think all that's going to be really interesting, and I like seeing Nick not really trusting these people. We'll have to see the way that really does go down. Like I said, my only complaint with this episode really was Strand. I feel like Strand in the hotel just really wasn't all that compelling. I don't really know why we had to come back to him in this episode. I'm glad they didn't do like a Strand-centric episode. Knowing the show, though, I wouldn't be surprised if they do. I think we're going to get another Strand-centric episode. We had one last season. I think we're going to get another one this season, and I don't know really where they're going to go with him. We'll have to see really where that's going to go. No mention of Ophelia. We know she's around, but I don't know what's going to happen with that. She's definitely around, and we're going to see her again. We saw her in the finale, but I don't really remember her storyline at all, I have to say. And then I guess my only complaint with this premiere is that Travis as a character, his arc just really was not all that compelling, but it made sense because of the fact that he was dying. It made sense that they were trying to set up his death and things like that. Other than that, guys, these are two of the most intense and I think optimistic episodes we've had with the show. The show has never been better than these two episodes really were. We're heading in a very positive direction, and I can't wait to see the way things go down. I love that everyone's back together. I love that we're kind of revamping the show, and I think it's absolutely the right direction for the show to take. This was everything that I really was hoping this premiere would be, and I'm definitely going to give both episodes of Fear the Walking Dead a 4.5 out of 5 or an A-. So over, guys, remember the season premiere of Fear the Walking Dead. The most guys thought of this premiere overall. Loved your thoughts on it. I know it was very shocking. What did you guys think of Travis's death? Do you like the new characters? Like I said, I like them a lot more than I expected to. But that's my review. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Definitely we're looking forward to this season. And I will see you guys in the next video, which, guys, holy shit, I can't believe it. My next video will be for the series finale of The Leftovers. I know, it's insane. I can't believe it either. Hopefully this is the satisfying finale that we all hoped it would be, and I will see you guys for that, which will probably be a very long review, so look forward to that, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.